What's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's Lumix Live. Hopefully, everything stays relatively solid here. I'm getting all kinds of errors in OBS for bitrate and streaming, but then YouTube says that everything's working fine. So I'm recording this as a backup locally, so if for some reason the stream drops out, we'll have a recorded post go up of the conversation we had. So I appreciate everybody hanging for a few minutes after our normal start time. We just try to get started right at 1 o'clock. If you are new to the Lumix Live platform, welcome. This is our weekly live streams that we do where we feature photographers, videographers, industry members across the photographic and the videographic, video, is that even a word? The video community, as Matt's laughing in my ear. Where we basically just have the conversations with all these different members to cover topics that you guys may like to hear and have questions about. Today, going in from some of the things that we've covered over the last couple of weeks, you know, we've been very video heavy with a lot of our topics, and then last week we had Daniel Barahulak on to talk about photojournalism and his project. We wanted to bring it back to some more video-focused streams, and we were actually going to be talking about some video process, so the actual workflow with our ambassador, Matt Sutherland. So, like I said, if you're new to this platform, make sure to like and subscribe. Get yourself ready on this channel. As anyone that has been watching any of the YouTube channels online, you know that subscribers is a big thing that helps the channel grow. So if you guys are enjoying this content or just want to see more of it, make sure to get subscribed. It's that little red button down on the bottom, and make sure to give us a like if you guys like this content. If you want to interact with us during this stream, if you have questions for myself or for Matt, make sure to tag at Lumix Cameras in the chat so I can see it pop up on the screen here, and we'll be able to address as many of them as we can during this stream, and fingers crossed everything is in the green now on my end, so hopefully that lag from the beginning is kind of cleared out. Outside of that, we also have the Lumix Pro services, which I couldn't run the pre-roll part of that. I'll drop some links in the chat below about the pre-roll there for the Lumix Pro services, so you guys can find information about that. And then, yeah, I think that's kind of all I had for this. Yeah, let's bring Matt into the conversation. So, hi. Hey, there you are.
Hey, how you doing, Sean?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm great. I'm doing great. Never better, right, Sean? Everything going so smooth.
Oh yeah, we made it a good solid year of doing these live streams without any kind of networking issues. But after the snowstorm and everything that happened here in Austin, like the internet's just never been the same, and they've been out to fix it a couple of times. So
Well,
I don't
you're
know.
you're a smart man to back yourself up and record it, and we're ready to roll. Let's go.
Yeah. So like with all the streams that we do, I always like to give the viewers and anyone tuning in the opportunity to kind of hear who you are, what kind of industry you work in, and just kind of get to know you a little better. So could you give everyone some insight into who you are?
Sure. Yes. So my name's Matthew Sutherland, or Sean calls me Matt because we're buddies.
Matthew,
That's
sorry.
okay too. Either way, no. I go by both. But I have two different companies. My wedding film company is Matrimony Films, and we do about 100 weddings a year. And then I have a corporate brand called Tiva Cinematics that kind of was a soft launch a month or so ago, and will continue to launch stronger as the year goes on. But we do corporate films and lots of all kinds of live streaming and things like that with Tiva Cinematics.
Oh, very cool. I know when we had you on last time, we were talking a lot about the travel and some of the wedding videography that you've done, and I know we got a lot of people that had a lot of really good questions about that, and that kind of informed us and myself, how we kind of wanted to structure this week's stream. actually going out and capturing content, creating work for clients and things like that is one thing, but the actual process of getting that content back, how you're editing it, that's an area that I think a lot of people don't really ever kind of talk about and cover. So I'm curious if we can walk through kind of like a typical scenario for you. Like, you've gone out and you're getting your cameras ready to go shoot, say, like a corporate job.
Yeah.
What processes go through your setup, for like things like codec and lighting and stuff like that? Could you give us a little peek into that part of your world?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So there's a few main elements. I mean, preparation is absolutely king. So preparing and understanding what the final deliverable is going to be a big part of planning to get there the right way, right? So with a corporate job, the first thing I need to know is like where are you going to show it? What do you need? Are we having a launch on a big screen like Apple does these amazing like events where they have hundreds of people in the room and there's going to be a launch. So that's got to be, like high end, high resolution, large frame, it's going to be on a movie theater screen. Right.
Yeah.
But a lot of companies are just, oh, we're just going to put it on our website. So the encoding process and then the codec you're going to use, all those things matter. Some companies want, to save money in editing. So they want to basically shoot at a, lower bit rate or things like that. But if I had my way and it was like all up to me, I would probably shoot, like I would shoot the highest resolution possible that I could, and then think about in post processing how I was going to reduce the file size in order to have a manageable edit, and then like your final product, be able to give it to them in the way that they want their people to digest it, basically. So that's a whole lot of words to describe basically. I love, like I'm going to shoot in 4K as often as I possibly can. And so then, that's kind of like for me, I try to shoot cinematically. That's our style. So I try to shoot 4K 24 frames, or 2398. So that's basically where I try as my default to get to. I'd love to shoot 10-bit if the project will allow it. Some projects, actually our weddings, because of so many camera guys and so many different cameras at a wedding, and most of our brides, our couples, want a really fast turnaround. They want a 1-minute Instagram trailer 3 days after the wedding at the worst. Sometimes we do same day edits and we actually show the edit that night at the reception. So
Yeah.
so for weddings, we typically will shoot 4K, 24p, 8-bit. So that's a pretty standard profile for us for a wedding film. And I also do that because it's really easy to switch, especially on the Lumix cameras. We use GH5s, S1H. With those, you can switch from that 4K 8-bit 24 frame profile, or whatever setting. You can switch right into a variable frame rate really easily. And so I can shoot slow motion in real time. And the reason I do that in real time, it's shooting 60 frames wrapped in a 24 frame, wrapper.
Yeah.
Basically, I can then turn around and shoot this beautiful shot of them in some sort of romantic shot, and turn around and show the bride the camera immediately and show it to her playback. And then she's like, oh my gosh, you're so amazing. And we get instant credibility from the only person that matters, which is the bride. Let's be honest. Right.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely. Definitely.
So that's a wedding film. A corporate film, they're going to watch it on a monitor as it's happening. There's not often like playback where they need to be wowed by the amazing resolution. They just want to, like feel like they're being a part of the creative process. So in that situation, we're going to shoot 10-bit because I'm going to get a more color more color information, and basically a lot we can do with that in color grading and stuff in post. So in that situation, I'll probably, we'll either shoot 4K 60 10-bit or we'll shoot 4K 24 10-bit, depending on the project. If it's more, like a commercial that doesn't need to be as cinematic, then we're going to shoot, 60 frames is going to give us a lot more real lifelike, feel like you're in the moment profile, like look. And then
Yeah.
the 24 frames is going to give us more like cinematic, better contrast in the blacks and things like that.
Yeah, and that's something I think that that a lot of people, I think, look at the different recording frame rates in the cameras and have kind of a very, I want to say, set in stone approach to, like, what frame rate to use for what look. And I mean, for my, the stuff that I record for the company, when, like when we're doing training videos and stuff like that,
Yep.
I get questions a lot about, like, well, how come it's not filmed in 24 frame per second? Because that's what most of us here in the United States are so used to seeing, the quote unquote cinematic, look on things.
Oh,
But I'm curious
uh-oh.
if, oh,
You froze on me, but I think you're back. Or I froze on you. I don't know.
I don't know. The internet is just having all kinds of fun today. But
I would say roll with it. Keep
yeah,
going. Yes.
exactly,
So
exactly. So I'm wondering, if you have found situations where, with different clients and different applications, like you kind of started to mention there before, do your clients seem to have preferences in, seeing a 24 frame per second output or seeing a, 60 frames per second output, for their videos, or does it kind of really you're being the judge for that?
yeah, never. I never have a client who ever talks to me about frame rate. And I don't want to get too much of a tangent, but yeah, I mean, it's all about us and our branding and what we basically see. I don't know if you can see me, but I know you could probably hear me, right? Can you hear
Oh,
me?
yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So anyway, yeah, I it's always up to us as far as like how to translate the client's needs and figure out, okay, how do we make our product look like as good as we know we can make it look and give the client what they need. So no, it's almost never. I would say I don't even know how many. I mean, I've been doing this for 19 years. I don't know how many times any client has ever said, "Hey, can you shoot 24 frames?" Or they hire us because they know we give an output that they want that. I want it to look like that. So
Yeah.
but I was gonna say basically I do all like you we go around the country and we teach people filmmaking and share Panasonic's new cameras and new technology with people, and it is amazing to me how beginning filmmakers basically are so interested in frame rates and codecs and resolution, and yet they don't know f-stop or shutter speed, like. So let's start slow and yeah, start to I mean, if you shoot 24 frames because you want it to look like the movies you see in the movie theater, you're in the right space. If you shoot 60 because you want to, I mean, but I think you know a little more intricate. Yeah, you can shoot 60. Like when we shoot a variable frame rate, 60 frames a second, it's you put it into a 24 frame timeline and you're now have a 24 frame output. So
Yeah. And there's something so I think jarring for a lot of people, when they look at 60 frames per second actually played back in 60 frames per second.
uh-huh.
Um, but there's so many advantages I think that a lot of people may be missing out on by not using 60 frames for its kind of intended, well, not intended purpose, but one of the big benefits with it, for instructional videos, which,
Yep.
again, like, that's the vast majority of stuff that I film for the company is instructional videos, how to, mixing in, actually going into camera menus and stuff like that. But when you shoot at 60 frames per second, because you're shooting at such a faster shutter speed, all of your individual frames for everything is super sharp and super crisp. So for technical, demonstrations, for anyone that's watching in the in the stream that looks to do recordings where you're showing someone how to do something, the fact is that shouldn't look cinematic. That should look crisp and sharp, so you can read text. You can, actually make out the differences if you're moving something in frame, like on a chart, like on this charger. Like if I wanted to show people the text on here, I'd want that in 60 frames because it's going to be sharper.
Yes.
Plus, I mean, let's face it, the vast majority of people on YouTube that are watching content and consuming it all the time, they're usually watching in 720 or 1080p 60 anyway, because that's a very favored platform on YouTube now.
Yep.
But with your clients and stuff like that, there were a couple questions that came up, and I kind of don't remember 100% if you remember, or I don't remember if you mentioned it. So like when you're looking to do fast turnaround with a client, is there a particular reason why 10-bit isn't a profile that you would naturally go to, or is it more just kind of choice?
No, it would basically mean that our file sizes are smaller with 8-bit. So when we encode the footage, when we're working with it, our laptops basically can digest it a little easier and work with it and manipulate it. It's and also it's mostly that we can flip into variable frame rate really simple back and forth, and it's easy, like a lot.
Oh, there you are. Okay.
Oh my goodness. I wonder if my mic didn't like to play nice with the Google Meets. You can hear me okay?
Now I can, yeah. It was kind of like just all of a sudden everything just went like, nope.
Oh, geez. What did you hear last, Sean?
Part of the beginning of the 10-bit.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Let's go. Let's say it again for yeah. So basically, we shoot in the 4K 8-bit for that instant gratification of basically showing the variable frame rate to our couples right in camera, because the 10-bit doesn't give us an option to do variable frame rate, correct?
Yeah.
So
exactly.
We'd have to switch back to 8-bit and then switch to variable frame rate. So on a wedding day where, things are happening lightning fast, they're only happening once, I basically like the idea that all of my camera guys are all going to be able to switch back and forth really simple and not miss anything. And then with that, it seems that our editing machines handle 8-bit easier, and it's basically lower file sizes that kind of allow our editors to work faster. That was my question to you. Do you notice that as a situation as far as 10-bit being larger file sizes and a little more cumbersome to edit?
Yeah, with a lot of the general, kind of process that you look at, to work with 10-bit, you typically need, more robust equipment, more robust processors for your graphics card and stuff like that. And, the fact is that for some people, 10-bit can be very easily ingested and worked with. Like the systems that I use for editing photo and video, they're more than enough to handle it. But, in a lot of cases, there's not an actual need there. It's recording extra information for something that doesn't actually give you any appreciable benefit for what your client is. And I think what a lot of people might miss is that, just because for a lot of us, we want to record the highest possible quality, which is still a very, very good practice to be in. Mm-hmm. A lot of times it just doesn't make financial sense to do that, because how much longer are you going to have to pay for the video to be processed and worked with an editor if you're sending it to an editor? How much time or how much money are you going to have to spend in storage for the current job that you're doing?
Yep.
For some people, it's a massive, massive change in business just to implement things like 4K in their output. But I would
Right.
argue that's where the 8-bit actually comes in really handy with 4K, because you can do 4K 8-bit and do everything like you were saying, being able to jump
Yep.
back and forth between VFR and standard recording, and you're not getting a huge file size penalty because of it. So
Right.
for most people, I think just not worrying about 10-bit as much. If your client is happy, then that's cool. You can start to push yourself further if you think it makes sense for your business.
Yeah, and like I said, with our corporate stuff, where we're going to have more time to work with it and need more to pull more out of it, then yeah, the 10-bit we use. The other piece is that we give raw footage to our clients. We sell it as an option, and when we use 8-bit, I can just dump it all onto a hard drive, and they can access the files and watch them all on their computer, no problem, Mac or PC. As soon as I give them the 10-bit files, they can't view the files. They don't have editing software, nor do they know where to get it or why they should need it. They just want to watch the files. So
Exactly. There's I think looking at ultimately how much these cameras can do. Whether you're in, just like we're talking about, whether you're doing wedding, corporate, fine art, whatever process you're doing, there's something to be said for that, picking the right format for the job you're trying to do. I don't think I've met anyone that's ever wanted to add extra work to the process,
yeah,
just for the sake of working in a new format. I mean, it's one thing to expand and stretch your legs and start to find new efficiencies as things go on, but
absolutely, yeah, yeah,
yeah, but I mean, like, let's face it, the very few of us, and I put myself in that category, are making a living from creating video content for people, whether it's wedding video, corporate videos, anything like that. There's a vast number of people that just enjoy creating content. So I think that's where some of that polarization comes from, where yes, we'll always put the highest quality content or the highest quality capabilities in the cameras that we can, so that it gives you a better master file to work with. But the average person and that's actually making a living off this, like yourself, it's about efficiencies. It's like,
right,
how fast can I shoot this to what my client likes and what they're over the moon with? Just like you said at the beginning, if the bride comes back and they're just floored and blown away by how great the piece went, they will never care how you shot it.
yep. So true. And I spend a lot of my time I mean, like when we do 100 weddings a year, you're talking about, that's 2 a week, right? So there's a lot of editing. You're talking about 10 to 20 hours of editing that can go into a wedding film.
Yeah.
That's a lot of time and effort and energy. And obviously, as a business owner, the more I can shrink the time we spend on, then the more efficient, more profitable we can be. So I spend a lot of time on figuring out how to be more efficient, and like learning, watching seminars on time, time management and things like that. And some of the best advice I ever got was basically, when you're editing a piece, or like, go, okay, for this little section, whether it's a photo or whatever, you have a stopwatch on your phone and you hit start. I'm going to give myself 5 minutes, go, and I start working on it. When that timer goes off, you move on, because otherwise you're, like, I have a love for creating content as well, but I have to give away a lot of my editing, the preliminary editing, to my editors, because otherwise I will spend days on one wedding film because I want it to be perfect.
Oh yeah.
But it needs to be efficient. So yes.
Yeah. And
all right. So yeah, like I would say good work on benefits of 8-bit codec. I like that.
So when when you've actually, kind of collected all the content, you figured out, you've got your content ready to go into an editor. Um, how how does that kind of process work with you guys? Like, do you have like a central ingest station that takes all the content in? How do you handle it? Because I also know that you work with remote shooters as well too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, remote editors, yes.
Yeah.
Most of my shooters will be local. And if I can I give my shooters SD cards, so they shoot on my equipment, my SD cards. And then at the end of the day, shooting, I get everything. I've definitely worked in the past with, like having other people use their cards and then hoping to get them, or, like, oh shoot, they used a, 70 megabit per second card. Oh, I hope there's no, like problems in the footage and things like that. So when I use my cards, my gear, I know everything's going to work clean and smooth. And then I take those cards, basically, yeah, we have one machine that's just works on transferring the footage, and immediately we get it onto a double backed up. So I put it on 2 external hard drives immediately. So now we have cards and we have 2 external hard drives. And then typically, either I allow an editor to work off of a hard drive, or take that hard drive and, ship it to an editor and let them ingest it into their machine and work from there. That's one way we do it. We also will work on uploading files to either Google Drive or to Dropbox. We use WeTransfer a lot as well to transfer some things back and forth. So one of those platforms, I'm not a huge fan of that in my own personal workflow, just because uploading, I don't have, like Sean Robinson's amazing internet upload speed capability.
When it works.
If I get 18 megabits per second upload speed, I'm thrilled. So that would take a long time to upload. Basically we're talking about every wedding is somewhere between 300, 400 gigabytes. Yeah, so that's a lot to upload. So typically I just put it on a hard drive, and I would rather FedEx it for 30, 40 bucks than to have to let my machine take 2 days to upload something. So that's what I do. I send out a hard drive that's duplicated, so now and the upside of that actually is that now I have multiple hard drives that are double backed up off site. So now I've got 2 locations. So, heaven forbid there was ever a tragedy or an emergency or a fire or any of those things, we have all of our stuff double backed up off site.
Yeah.
So kind of a built-in safety measure there.
Yeah, I mean, during the launch of our the BGH1 stream that we did, we purposely, because of how intricate that whole thing was going to be, that was working with 3 different content creators on different parts, in different parts of the country. That was working with a team in Japan to do interviews with and all that kind of stuff. And it was amazing how different everybody handled getting the files over, Like, I'm so used to working, like, I have a NAS set up in my apartment that I use for basically all of my storage now. And like, that's cool, but having that online cloud storage as an offsite backup, having other additional hard drives. Like, I have a closet full of hard drives here, and I have a closet full of hard drives at my parents' house, like states and states away, of like all just backup stuff, because not for my case, because there's not necessarily money on the line in my case, but like I couldn't imagine if you had, just like you said, heaven forbid something happens where there's hard drive failures, everything just crashes, if the computer crashes, losing all of that stuff can be such a financial hit, just because yes, there's insurance, but you never want to have to use insurance.
Well, no, and it's someone's wedding, right? Or it's someone's corporate
Exactly.
job that they've spent quite a bit of money on, and like especially a wedding, you can't duplicate it. So I would say about 10 years ago, I just made a commitment to double back up offsite every single wedding that we shoot, just so that we can never lose anyone's footage. And knock on wood, all is good. Haven't lost anyone's footage. So
Well, that's a really really good thing, and I'm gonna knock on wood for you as well,
thank
because.
you, thank you very much.
But now, so when the content's brought in, and you've got it out to the editors, how, like, what kind of ecosystem do you either edit yourself in, or do you know your editors work in? Like, are they Apple users and they're using Final Cut? Are they Premiere? DaVinci Resolve? Because there's so
Um,
many different ways.
yeah. And for years and years, I was successfully able to find Final Cut users. I am a Final Cut user, and I basically the way the workflow goes is that our editors will gather the footage, do an edit, give kind of a rough cut, then they'll send it to me, and I'll typically polish it up and kind of color grade it and make sure the audio sounds great all across, maybe do some sound design elements if we need it, and then export high res and then do an upload for the clients. So I kind of let them do a lot of the, rough kind of grunt work, and then get me a, almost finished version, and then make it, try to polish it up. With that, basically we have them, kind of, so if they could do it in Final Cut, that would be, that's the most efficient, right?
Yeah.
But in recent, I would say the last 2 years, like more and more Premiere editors are kind of like, it's just, I think it's just a more accessible across multiple platform kind of editing
Yeah.
workflow. And I can use Premiere. I actually use After Effects quite a bit. I can't stand Premiere. It frustrates me beyond belief. I really am an anti-Premiere guy. I'm a very pro Apple guy, so that's probably a big part of it. But I can and do use Premiere. So basically, I'm now kind of opening myself up. And one of these things, like in the pandemic, it's like, what skill can I learn to make myself better? Okay, I'm going to be a better Premiere editor. All right,
Yeah.
there you go. And so, yeah, so I've actually, the last 3 projects I've done have all been Premiere, and now I've had to go in and basically finish them off in Premiere. So the most efficient I've realized is that allowing my editors to work as fast and as good as they can work, like allow them to be as successful as they can be, and then send it to me, and then I can take it from there.
Yeah.
So they'll basically send me, like either return the hard drive to me and I take things off and then back it up somewhere else. And then I can work with the project right from the hard drive, or they will send me the project file over Google Drive, and then I can just reattach the footage from my hard drive. That's the easiest way to go, is sending the file in Google Drive, reattaching the footage on my end.
Yeah.
Or with some of my editors that have been with me, like I have 3 Final Cut editors that have been with me for 6-7 years. And with them, they are so good now, know exactly what we're going for as far as our style. And I literally just let them upload to my Vimeo site. So I use Vimeo for my clients, and Vimeo's got this great, like platform now where I can send a link with review tools to the clients, and they can just go in and make notes wherever they decide they want to. I'm very careful. I'll make sure I mention this. When I send the link to my clients, I am very specific about the way I word their ability to give us notes.
Yep.
I know several videographers around the country that are like, what? You let them give you notes? Like, what? If you word it correctly, like basically we say, or I say, hey, here's your wedding film. I'm so excited to get this to you. Please take a look and let us know if everything looks good. If
Yep.
all looks good, I can make it public for you right away. I hope you love it as much as I do. Something like that, where it doesn't like, I mean, in the past I've said, hey, let us know if you have any notes.
Oh no.
Just make the notes in there, and then you can send it back to me and I can make the changes for you. And that puts in their mind, oh, I have to give them notes and have to tell them the changes. No, be very careful about how you word that. But the point is, I let my editors work in their platform. They send it to me over Google Drive, or my good ones just upload it right to our Vimeo. I don't even look at it, so that I can just send it to the couple, and 99% of the time they say, oh my gosh, I'm crying. It's so awesome. I love it. And then we're done. If I look at it, I'm going to have notes, right, Sean? I mean,
Yeah.
now
Exactly.
I'm not being as efficient as I could be. So
Yeah.
try to be efficient.
And that's definitely a really good way to do that too. I mean, because anytime you even put that moment of, whether it's intentional or not, asking someone for feedback or things that they want to change, to someone who doesn't know how all this stuff works, they're going to probably look at that and say, well, okay, maybe they're not so confident in the way that the piece worked. So, maybe I'm going to start getting ultra nitpicky on things that would have never come up had it just been that, like, hey, here's the piece. I hope you love it. If you're cool with it the way it sits, here we go. We're ready to go, just like you said. And it's like that boost of confidence right at that last part of, it was an amazing time shooting with you. We got all this content. I hope you love it. People just need to have confidence in their work, I think. And it's so cool.
Even just the way you say it, like when you say, hey, here's the finished product, I hope you love it as much as I do, most people are going to be like, oh my gosh, it's great. But if you say, hey, can you take a look at this and let me know what you think? I think the human nature is, oh, I have to tell him something to help him make it better.
Yeah, exactly.
You're asking me to tell you what should be better. So if I don't tell you something that's better, then I'm dumb. Then I must not know anything.
Yeah.
I want to be helpful.
Exactly. And it just goes more into that point, I think, that when someone's hiring you for a job, they're hiring you for your expertise, your style, your look. And anyone that's just getting into this kind of filming, whether it's wedding or corporate or even just, fine art, like if you're just doing this as a hobby or as a passion, the more confident you can be to say, like, okay, I did this edit, it came out really well, here you go, and I'm proud of this.
Yeah.
People react so different when it's something that's like, I am so proud of this piece here. You'll still get constructive criticism, but I think I've always found, and I wonder if it's the same for you, that putting that foot forward in confidence first, the criticism you get back is typically more valuable criticism. It's actually constructive, as opposed to, there's too much noise in the shadow here, or, there's this framing could have been, you should have been this way. It's usually like useful information that comes back. Not to say that other stuff's not useful, but
no, but you make a good point. Yeah, typically in that situation, we get, oh, you put his mom in, but my mom's not in the video, or that line in the video is not quite our company's, like that's not our branding, or things that are more like kind of overt that you maybe didn't know, I do get with wedding films. The most common is my brother's girlfriend is dancing like a lunatic in in the reception, and she just broke up with him. Can you get her out of the video, please? That one happens more often than you'd expect.
Yeah, and that's having situations like that, having the confidence put forward first makes that kind of feedback and that change, I think, a lot easier to make, as opposed to being hesitant to show them, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, you didn't know that any of that stuff happened, so how and how would you know? And it just changes that dynamic of how the client feels in the end, because I mean, ultimately it's a service industry. It's making sure that your client is happy, making sure that they're so overjoyed with the piece that you produce with them that they go tell a friend, they tell shout from the top of the mountain like how amazing their wedding was because Matthew shot it and it was just the best experience that they've had from start to finish. And
absolutely. The last thing I want is for them to have one shot where maybe her makeup was getting done that she doesn't feel confident and be like, oh, I love it except for that shot, so I'm not going to share it with anyone because I don't want anyone to see that. No, we don't want that. I want everyone to love it and rave about it, and that's going to ultimately help with our company's branding down the road, right?
Yeah. So the last question I want to kind of ask you about here is one that we were getting a lot of questions about, and that's, obviously we talked about last time the travel shooting and the camera outfit that you use in that kind of filming, but for like the corporate work and stuff, I know you lightly touched on that, you're using S1Hs and GHs, but what does a typical kit look like when you go out? Because I know lighting is typically also part of that kind of kit as well.
Yep. So if it's a corporate job, we're going to shoot S1H as our main camera and possibly as a second camera. Like if it depends on what kind of a, look we want from a second angle, but almost always S1H as the corporate camera. It's a little larger. It's a little more robust. We're going to get, like I can hook that up to an Atomos and shoot raw if I want to. So, but with that, for me, like in a sit down setting where we can plan out the shots or we're doing an interview, that's really perfect. And with that, I use a 24-105. I use the 24-70 lens. And then, possibly like, I really like, there's the 16-35 if I need something wider. So that's what we use for corporate. For weddings, I still am all GH5. I love the whole G series system based on the fact that I can have multiple bodies with, like we can shoot 3 cameras at every ceremony and I can do 3 in a day, meaning I have 3 crews and each crew has 3 GH5s with usually they each have 4 GH5s because we have one as a backup in case there's an issue with any of the bodies, right? And then you're talking about 12-35 as our main lens, 35-100 during ceremonies and during vows where we can get over the shoulder from far away and it looks gorgeous. And then I love the Nocticron 42.5 lens, the 1.2. I use that for all the romantic shots and a lot of the detail shots. It's just a beautiful lens. And then I'll use the 45 macro for like ring shots and things like that. And I'm trying to think, I think basically that's all the lenses. Maybe I'll use an 8-18 or a 7-14 for an establishing shot if I need something really wide. But basically I have a 12-35 on my camera. I have a 35-100 in my holster, and I have the 42.5 in my other holster. So I've got 3 lenses on me ready to go at all times, and I pop them on and off like crazy. And that's basically our system as far as lighting. I work with Light and Motion a lot, and I use their CLX10 for our reception lighting. It's a beautiful, huge battery-powered, remote control-powered light. So we can get great like Rembrandt lighting on the whoever's speaking at the reception from really far away. It's super powerful and it looks gorgeous. And then I'll use, I actually have these like, I can't pull it because I'm using it as my key light right now, but it's a $49 light. I want to say it's a Nan light. Is that what it is? Hold on. Yeah, it's a Nan light that basically has bicolor and it's battery powered as well. Uses, these simple, batteries basically. Yeah. I mean, you can get, so we definitely want portable light. We want bicolor so we can change, because lighting, especially in a wedding, I mean, literally you can point one way and have complete orange and then point another way and have daylight. I mean, it's, it's constantly changing. But ultimately, like, especially if I have time in a wedding shoot to shoot with window light, like the bigger your light source, the more soft it is. So we use window light a lot. The only real external lighting we do at a wedding is the reception speeches. Mm-hmm. And then we have like basically some aperture color lights or these Nan lights that are very portable, very simple and handy, that are all battery powered, that we can just pop on and give us a little boost on a ring shot or a detail shot here and there. With corporate stuff, we use all the light and motion stuff. Like I use CLX10, Stella Pro lights. So I do have soft boxes, and we do 3-point lighting in an interview. And then as you can see behind me, these are the Aperture MCs that give us color, and they can color a background, or they can, yep, there, that's it. Yeah.
These things are awesome.
Yeah, that's my fill light right now. Yeah. So awesome because you can put the little softs on them, or you can make them colored.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, those things are super cool. So I'll put those behind a ring shot, like, and kind of color the background different ways sometimes. And, just try to be a little creative in the wee hours of the morning at the end of a wedding shoot. That's what we do.
Years ago, when I second, or not even second shot, when I just would assist back in New Jersey, there were so many times where it was like, 11:30 at night, the wedding's winding down, and it's like, okay, now I can actually play with the lighting a bit, because most people are either fairly inebriated in some of the weddings that I would shoot in New Jersey, or help shoot in New Jersey.
I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't seen any of that. No.
And yeah, like I wish, oh man, at this point it's coming close on like 10 years, I think, since I've assisted or shot on any kind of weddings like that. I wish I had stuff like this back then.
Yeah.
That was actually affordable.
Right. No, you're right. Like, it was crazy expensive, and nothing was battery powered. So you have to carry like a huge battery pack with you, or you'd have to plug it in somewhere. No, it's things have changed for the better. So you got to come second shoot with me, Sean. That's what we just figured out.
Yeah,
so
there you go.
Put your skills to use.
Well,
I love it.
The next time I'm out in LA, we'll connect and create something.
I'm gonna take you up on that, Sean.
Yeah, man, definitely. Or vice versa. If you come down here to Austin, man, we're gonna have to do some shooting as well.
I love it. All right, now you're talking. The one thing that we did, I think you and I touched on, that I don't know if we've addressed, and I don't know if we have time, but was exporting, like
yes,
getting highest resolution exports possible.
Yeah. How do you handle that? Because I know that I obviously different outputs, different clients, have different kind of requirements, and even just like you and I were talking, when you look at corporate jobs, there may be very specific, or they may be ultra vague in
Yeah.
what they want for you. So how do you handle it?
I definitely start from the situation of, as a filmmaker, I want to get the best quality export I possibly can. Now, working from there, like corporate job, or, basically a high end budget kind of job, I'm going to just go highest quality I possibly can. And that really is, like taking the source file and trying to export a version right out of my editing software that's going to give me basically as close to the source footage as possible, if not exactly the source footage that we brought in, and getting a robust, basically, like for a 5-minute film, it's going to be a 25 gig file, something like that. Okay, so whatever is source file. Now from there, we can bring it into either media encoder or compressor, and we can make a new version of it that will fill whatever our client's needs are. But I love to kind of work from a source file first, right? And not
Yeah.
something inside my edit bay, like, or my editing software. I want to export something high res that's the finished film. And now I've like ditched all the other I can put that onto an SSD inside my computer, and I basically have it in one spot, finished version. Now where do we want to go from there? So starting there, we go, okay, if I want to get a really high res, low, manageable file size for YouTube or Vimeo, I probably will bring it into compressor and wrap it in an H.265. And I recently learned this on the last project that I just did. I do an HEVC encode at like a faster encode setting. I actually didn't do, and Photo Joseph helped me with this quite a bit. So big thank you to Photo Joseph. I hope he's watching and listening. He basically guided me to the compressor setting of faster encode, which took my machine about 10 minutes to encode in SSD on a 25 gig file. And I defy you to recognize the difference with my 700 megabyte HEVC encoded file versus the source 25 gig file. They look almost identical, if not identical. I don't know if anybody watching would be able to tell the difference. So
Yeah.
basically, I would compress down to an H.265 HEVC file and get a really high resolution version that's a manageable file size.
Yeah. No, there's I know, for the kind of, we're right at the time limit here, so this was great, but there's when a lot of people start looking at the actual output of it, there's so much now with sending content up, with HDR being the next kind of frontier for content delivery, and how much that's going to change the workflow for a lot of people. I personally think it's still a couple years away from the wedding and event kind of industry, because the additional workload does actually take a lot more, especially if it's something you've never done before. But for the average person looking in, understanding that exact difference, what advantages does HEVC give you, or H.265 give you, versus outputting in what we've normally done, H.264, the more traditional compression. If you're a Windows user like I am, exporting out an HEVC does take a little bit longer, because a lot of times it's, you either have to export and work in 420 10-bit HEVC for graphics cards to properly work with the footage, if you're going to be decoding. Otherwise, it gets pushed onto the CPU, and that's one area where I believe Mac has a better way of handling that with the Intel processors, or I'm curious how the new M1s work with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But there's such a cool area where I think, as as the technology gets better and better, to where it's more, kind of commoditized to everybody,
Yeah.
it's going to be cool to see more wedding videos, more corporate jobs that are shot in HDR. Because I mean, let's face it, the phones we carry with us that the vast majority of people view a lot of content on, they're all spec'd for HDR now.
Yeah.
Not the full
Yeah.
full HDR, but pretty close to it. So there's just such a cool direction there.
Well, and I just as a final note, I would say to the Intel use, I mean the PC users or someone who's not going to, that's going to go H.264, you just make sure you get a good bit rate that you're exporting at, like a 35 megabit per second bit rate. You got to play with that. Basically, like where's my sweet spot? Like because I think Media Encoder is like a target 10 megabit bit rate output. And lots of times that's too low to get a really, really high quality file. So you've got to raise your bit rate to at least 35 and then just see what you get. And is that enough of a file size difference for you? So that's where you got to play. And if anybody has questions about that, I'm happy to help. I know you are as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Matthew, for taking the time. I mean, this was awesome. Obviously we had some struggles at the beginning there with the live broadcast part, but hopefully by next week I'll be able to figure this stuff out and see why.
They can't keep us down, Sean. They can't keep us down. We fought through it.
Oh yeah, and we're always excited to expand and have people come back. So thank you so much for joining us on this week's. Thank you everyone for watching and for bearing with me during the kind of very, very frustrating start of this stream. Promise we will get this figured out. Like I said at the beginning, after the snowstorm we had here in Austin, that's when everything kind of just started to tip the other way. So who knows what the deal is, if it's a reliability issue in my current apartment. But the cool thing is next month, at the end of next month, we are transitioning to a new studio for this, or studio. I'm just moving. So
I can't wait to see what you do.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to be watching. Can't wait to see you do with the place.
Yeah. It's going to be nice because it's not going to be in a bedroom. It's going to be in an actual separate space to record this stuff, and we'll have a lot of really cool stuff to show you guys there. As a reminder, for everyone in the chat, where can they continue to follow you and check out your work, Matthew?
Absolutely, yeah. At Matrimony Films on Instagram and at Tiva Cinematics. I'd love people to go and follow me, TIVA Cinematics. That'd be great. And our website is matrimony-films.com as well. But Instagram is just the easiest place to find me and get a hold of me, and slide into my DMs if they want.
Oh man. Well, on that note, thank you everyone for joining us. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you like this video. It helps us out tremendously. And we will be back next week on Thursday at 2 p.m. We're doing another one of our AMA streams. So if you guys have questions, make sure to drop them in the comment section for this video. Shoot us an email at lumixlive@us.panasonic.com. This way I can, kind of make sure that I'm covering some of the bases that everyone's looking for information-wise. And with that, I will see everybody next week at 2 p.m. on Thursday. Thanks for watching, everybody.